Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 181. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and #1 bestselling author of Practical Law of Attraction. Align yourself with the manifesting conditions and successfully attract your desires. I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores. And today I have a very special guest with me, Tim Grimes. Tim Grimes is a spiritual counselor who specializes in helping people relax. He's an author of multiple best-selling stress management guides, including The Joy of Not Thinking and Relax More, Try Less. And Tim is a modern authority on the law of attraction and also an acclaimed editor of the classic Law of Attraction teachings by Emile Coué and Neville Goddard. So, for more information about Tim, you can go to his website, radicalcounselor.com. And he can also be found on Amazon with tons of books there under Tim Grimes, the author. And his recent book is called The Law of Attraction Simplified. And today, Tim is going to be sharing some of his insights on simplifying the law of attraction concepts. So, welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you for having me, Victoria. It's a pleasure to be here and to be with a fellow Law of Attraction author.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I was really delighted to get your request to be on the show because I had seen some of your books on Amazon. I kind of, glanced by, and obviously, I see a lot of books on the topic, but when the request came through, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm familiar, and especially I was really intrigued by the fact that you had mentioned you do a little bit of editing you re-release some of the Neville Goddard books, which, I've read and listened to a lot of his inspirational and inspiring material. And so, yeah, it'll be really interesting it's always interesting to talk to another Law of Attraction author and really get their take and see what our similarities and differences are. And so thank you so much for wanting to be on the show.
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Yes, me too. Me too. So let's kind of dive in right away into, like, what got you started in writing some of the Law of Attraction material, or even before that, writing some material on helping people with their stress management and relaxing.
Yeah, I mean, how I got into publishing books on Amazon is actually is through stress management advice and giving advice online, and then publishing some small stress management books. Because my first, I guess you could say, my first love is alternative stress management with kind of a spiritual angle, meaning, how can we connect with the moment? Because in my opinion, when you connect with the moment, when you really connect with the moment, you feel good. The stress disappears. Whatever stress is there vanishes. And so that's something I've been into for most of my adult life. And through a series of non-coincidences, which a lot of people would think are coincidental, I found myself, like, in 2012, 2013, looking to change my job because I was writing part-time, but I was also still involved with real estate. And I was very sick of doing real estate. And, I'd heard a little bit about the law of attraction, but just nothing had really pulled me in because it lacked the depth, I thought, compared to a lot of other spiritual teachings that I had been into and been inspired by for a number of years. But I stumbled upon a few interesting books. I stumbled upon Wallace Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich. And I thought that was a fascinating book. And that was, I think, at the end of 2013. And then soon after that, I kind of, I started reading some of the classic Law of Attraction teachings, and I found Neville. And Neville Goddard is somebody who is, one of the icons of the law of attraction in this country. And at the same time, he's really a vastly underrated teacher because most people have never heard of him. And in my opinion, he should be more famous than Norman Vincent Peale and Napoleon Hill and people like that. I mean, he's a step above those folks, in my opinion. I mean, those other guys are great, but Neville, I just think, is more eloquent, more clear, and more provocative in what he's saying. So that is how I found out and got really into the law of attraction. And then what I discovered is that since I was already doing a little bit of stuff on Amazon, I realized that Neville's stuff was not presented on Amazon and on Kindle in a good way. It could be presented more professionally. It could be presented in a way that really showed his brilliance more clearly. So I made a couple of, short books that were basically just collections of some of his best teachings. And it kind of snowballed from there. I got some requests to write some commentary of his work, which I was hesitant to do. And I eventually did do. And that was the first book of commentary I wrote on Neville's work. It's called Relax More, Try Less, which is mainly just me talking about relaxation. And then with a little bit of Neville sprinkled in there and some excerpts from Neville sprinkled in there. And I think that, that's a pretty good introduction to my work and to Neville's work for a lot of people. So yeah, that's my long answer.
I love that. I love the name of that book, Relax More, Try Less. I mean, who wouldn't want to give up, a lot of the the strenuous trying and efforting and putting so much energy into things. And, maybe it does require doing a little bit more relaxing and letting go. I would imagine that it has something to do with, letting go.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many paradoxes involved with relaxing. And one of the biggest paradoxes is that when you try to relax, you can't. And that, we'll talk maybe about him later, but that's Emile Coué. This is like the basis of a lot of law of attraction teachings, which have just been forgotten. But Coué said that the more you try to do something, the more you try to use willpower. If it's not aligned with your imagination will take over. So in other words, if you're saying, oh, I want to relax more, I'm going to relax more. But if you're imagining and thinking, oh no, I'm not relaxed. Were you kidding? I don't feel relaxed at all. I'm stressed out. Your imagination is going to win out and you're still going to be stressed. So how do you actually let go? That is, yeah, I mean, it's easy to say relax more, try less. And for most people, it's harder to actually do it. So that's kind of what I help people with.
It's so true. So, my background is as a hypnotist. And so that is one of the things that I also help people to do too. And people get very caught up in this notion of trying to make themselves hypnotized, trying to figure out, am I in a state of hypnosis? And really, it's a matter of just being present to letting yourself take in the words and being here now and not worrying about whether you're hypnotized or not. I mean, because the more you worry about it, the more you're going to push it away. And so it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's again, it's as you said, letting go, letting it happen. And what's interesting is our conscious mind, our thinking, our rational thinking might be thinking, oh, is this happening correctly or is this not happening? And it's happening, if we let it. And it's just, if the more we're able to let it happen, the more effective, not only us being hypnotized and suggestible in a good way, but the more easily we will align with what we want and be able to get what we want, in my opinion. So yeah, these are like fundamental core concepts of, hypnotism and the law of attraction are, as obviously they just go hand in hand. So yeah, these are, main underlying principles.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about manifesting and maybe some techniques that you might be able to share with us in the show. I always like to share some tips and strategies and techniques and things that people can do to manifest a better life. So what would you say would be one of your favorite manifesting techniques?
Yeah. So I would say I could give you a lot of specifics, but honestly, we've already gone over everything that I teach at its core, which is relax more, figure out how to relax more and relax as much as possible. That's, in my opinion, the secret. I mean, the more relaxed you are in your day-to-day life, the more you're able to align with that relaxed state within you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to do that, then you will manifest good things. It's almost inevitable. But what's interesting is, I mean, I'm like anybody else. I'm into different techniques and, affirmations, visualizations. Neville has a very specific instructions, which are actually very simple, but also specific instructions for how to visualize very effectively. He's probably, in my opinion, the best teacher when it comes to creative visualization, because he just dynamically explains it so well. He says you really have to you have to feel it and act as if and truly feel it within. But the thing is, that fails people a lot of the time. I've noticed over the years, it's hard to feel a desire consistently. And what makes it easier for a lot of us is if we just learn how to relax more regularly in our day-to-day lives. That's the trick. That's what my new book is all about. That it's just talking about feeling good more of the time. And how do we feel good more of the time? We relax more inwardly. You can be relaxed inwardly and be doing something, strenuous. You could be running or having a big meeting or whatever. But if you can figure out a way to feel relaxed and, in the flow while you're going through your day-to-day life, the more in the flow you are, as long as you know about these manifesting principles at all, which everybody listening to this podcast do, as long as you know about those principles and know that you're creating your own reality as you go along, if you feel relaxed about it, that's the technique. It's an anti-technique. I've got a free guide. You can go to my website, radicalcounselor.com. You can get it on Amazon too, but it's called the Relaxation Manifesto. And it's like just a short guide that just talks about what I just said. If you want to manifest a better life, if you want to manifest better things and have the law of attraction work better for you, just practice relaxing more.
So just relax more. Just
Yeah.
relax more. And your guide, the Relaxation Manifesto, will help people to learn how to do that.
That's all. I mean, all the stuff that I write, that's all I talk about is relaxing.
Yeah. All right. Well, so you talk a lot about relaxation. So let's dive into relaxation a little bit more.
Sure.
And how, because, here's the thing. I mean, it sounds like that's one of the biggest reasons why people fail to manifest what they want. And like the opposite of relaxation, I mean, so many people are stressed out, so many people are anxious, so many people are worried and living in fear that they're not going to get what they want. And, I think that, is one, to me, that's one of the biggest reasons why people fail. So how does, I'm sure that your books are hundreds of pages. I'm sure you say more than relax more, relax, 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 relax. So guide us through, maybe, give us a little bit of the juice, like how,
Here's the
how,
juice. Here's the
how does
juice.
some,
The juice is there's no juice. The problem is we have trouble relaxing. That's it. I mean,
Mhm.
my new book, I try to be really simple.
Yeah.
Like the Relaxation Manifesto. Again, you can get it for free on my website. It's like 15 pages long. Okay. This new book is like 130 pages long. It could be 400 pages long. And, I might sound like a simpleton when I say, just relax, just relax, just relax. But, I'm the teachers I mentioned in that book, most people probably in your podcast have never heard of. because they're the older law of attraction teachers, people like H. Emily Cady, Coué, Maxwell Maltz, the cybernetics guy,
Mhm.
people like that. They'll show you how to relax and have and utilize these principles. Okay, because listen, we can get intellectual and make it super complicated, but it comes back to the fundamental basis still is, how can I figure out how to feel good more often? And if I do that and practice feeling good more often, more good stuff is going to happen. Then I can better utilize my affirmations, my vision board, my visualization, or whatever technique you are using. And, I don't mean to be flippant about it at all. In my opinion, you were saying, Victoria, that most people live in fear. What it comes down to is people are living in much more fear than they readily acknowledge most of the time. We say it's subconscious or unconscious, and that is the issue, is that when we start getting into LOA and really getting into it, we look at ourselves, we look at our behavior, and we realize all of our flaws. It all comes up, and it's like, oh, wow, what the heck is wrong with me? And that goes for just about everybody. And when you figure out what's wrong with you, there's something else that's wrong with you. Usually something else comes up, and it's working with that. In my new book, I talk about falling off the horse. It's like you get on the horse, you ride for a while, you feel good, you feel like you're doing everything right, you feel like you're manifesting a better reality, and then you fall off the horse and you go, what the heck, was I fooling myself? What's wrong with me? And nothing's wrong with you. You just get back on the horse and ride again. And that
That's so
and that,
simple. It's so simple. And don't we all fall off the horse, don't we? I mean,
yeah,
is
that's
there,
it. Yeah, we all do. That's it.
I
we
think
all
that
we all
people
fall
think
off.
that even like, I think people think people that teach personal development or law of attraction or, any of these, that they never fall off the horse.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. I mean, that's the problem with, like you said, self-improvement. It's a big issue. Spirituality is even worse. People put these spiritual teachers on pedestals, including law of attraction teachers on pedestals. And
Mm-hmm.
the best ones all say, listen, I'm just like you. And yes, there are some people who lives have really smoothed out, and they're very seemingly very calm and placid, but that's the exception to the rule. Most of us get stressed out about stupid things, and we question ourselves, and we fall off the horse for no good reason, and we can't figure out why.
Yeah.
And when you can't figure out why, just get back on the horse. And how do you get back on the horse? You do your best to relax into it and feel good and just get back on. And that's why, again, H.M. Lee Cady, Maltz, the guy from Psycho-Cybernetics, like, they talk all about this stuff. Neville talks all about this stuff. The old great law of attraction teachers, Florence Scovel Shinn, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about failure and modifying your course so it doesn't become a failure. It only becomes a failure if you label it a failure and then perpetuate it. But if you see it as just part of the quote unquote journey, and I hate using the word journey because it's way overused in spirituality. In my opinion, there really is no journey. You're just here. But in terms of practically achieving a goal, of course, there's a journey. And to get where you want to go, you just keep on riding. When you fall off,
Yeah.
you figure out how to get back on the
Yeah.
horse to keep on riding. So,
Yeah. I found myself off off the horse the other night, and I was just saying all these things that are unlike me to say, um, because I practice what I preach.
right.
And but occasionally you do fall off the horse, and I'm just saying all these things out loud. My husband's looking at me like I've got 10 heads, like, this where's Victoria? Where's my wife? It's like, just like you said, I was off the horse. I was off my rocker. And,
Yeah.
I think we all kind of reach a little bit of a breaking point with things every once in a while. And I think it's really crucial to know and to let people know that you're not alone in this journey, the journey. You're not alone in this process or in this moment. I mean, we all face that. And, so your book, how does your book help people to get back on that horse and like
I
how.
think that this new book, it helps people get back on the horse because it makes them recognize that when they fall off, it's not a big deal.
Mhm.
And that's something that, because when I work with clients, and one of the main issues is that they just beat themselves up when they make a quote unquote mistake. They say, what's wrong with me? I'm doing something wrong, and they start worrying about, oh, is this thing that I want to manifest, whether it's the relationship or the better job or more money or the bigger house, whatever the heck it may be. They start worrying about whether it's happening, and they worry that they're doing something wrong. And again, that has nothing to do with feeling good and feeling relaxed inwardly. So it's like, get back on track, get back on the horse. So the law of attraction simplified is kind of like an experiential journey. It's a book that is probably meant to be read slowly, because
Mm.
it's, you read it and then you hopefully experience what I'm saying in the words I'm saying, that it's okay, and that everything's fine as it is, and that you actually are okay right now. Because as I said at the beginning of the show, I mean, my real background is much more like alternative stress management, and like Eastern spirituality. In Eastern spirituality, Zen, non-dual stuff, mystical stuff, the main tenet is everything's fine right now as it is. Like, this is it. This is God. And the law of attraction talks about that somewhat too, but not as explicitly, I think, as um, some of those Eastern religions or some of the mystical Christianity does. And my work tends to kind of incorporate, or attempt to incorporate, the law of attraction with that premise that everything's fine now, that you're abundant right now, like literally you're abundant right
Mhm.
now. And so, if you want to ask like another specific technique that I like to use to align myself to manifest things more easily, I like to just relax each morning. I'll get up, go to the bathroom, wash my face, and then I'll just lie down. I might say a few affirmations very quickly, like 2 or 3 things or 5 things, and connect with them for a few seconds each. But that's not the important part of this exercise. The important part is then, once I've done that, I just relax my body as best I can, and I notice what's there. And what I often notice is, oh wow, there's stressful thoughts there. My body doesn't feel as good as perhaps I would like. And I just watch it go, watch it go. And I just vibe out into that. I relax into that. I talk about this. I have a guide called The Joy of Not Thinking, which is pretty short. I was able to cut that one down a lot. There's a couple sections in that book, but the last section talks about this technique, which I call vibing out, which is just become very still, whether you're lying down or sitting down or whatever, and just relax into this moment and notice, oh, those thoughts are there, that judgment's there. Perhaps my body doesn't feel good. Perhaps I'm thinking about what I have to do later today. Doesn't matter. It's all perfect right now. And if you do this, if you relax and just relax your body, kind of sink into the relaxation physically while you do this, what often happens is you just become very present and very aware that you're okay right now. I say it's like relaxing into abundance, relaxing into what you already are. And that also almost inevitably helps you live a more aligned life where you get more of what you want. I mean, it just happens because you're deeply relaxing, and you can make that a practice. You can do that, once a day in the morning or something like that, or in the evening, or whenever you want to.
That's beautiful. And I just felt so relaxed as you were talking about it. I felt myself going into that state of just feeling relaxed. So that's a beautiful practice that, and like you said, I mean, it's extremely simple. And I think we, people have a tendency to make things more complicated than they are. And why do we do that? Do you think?
I mean, that's Again, my guide, The Joy of Not Thinking, talks about my opinion about that. But
Mm-hmm.
we overthink. We think, and what we're thinking is an illusion. It's just not. So I always say, don't think. And obviously, you have to think, right? But why we overthink, I'm not exactly sure, right? Our culture certainly puts an emphasis on thinking compared to historically. When we were hunter gatherers, I don't think we thought as much as we think today, right? But it's not as important to know why. As
We have a
your
special guest here.
Oh, the cat's visiting,
Yeah.
auspicious sign. Um, it's not as important to know why we overthink as to just be aware that we are overthinking, and to know that, you know what, I can stop overthinking. I can practice not overthinking as much, and becoming playful with your body or becoming very still, like I just described, are two different ways of doing that. There's a ton of different ways of doing that. um, but overthinking, in my opinion, is really the great uh, mental problem that we have in the world today, and perhaps always has been the problem that
I
the world's
yeah,
had.
I would definitely agree with that. So, would you say that modern law of attraction is watered down because of its commercial popularity?
Definitely. I mean, I think that yeah, it's a huge, it cuts both ways. um, it's great that because of its surge in popularity, particularly since The Secret was released, it's great that many exponentially more people know about these ideas and these principles now than probably, I don't know, 30 years ago. You know what I mean? It just seems like more of the population is aware of um, law of attraction ideas than ever before, which is a wonderful thing. And then, having Amazon, having practical books like your book. There's plenty of practical books on the law of attraction out there, practical YouTube channels, um, you know, modern practical advice that's good about the law of attraction. It's just that it's hard to find it because it is, it's a minority compared to the vast majority of law of attraction advice, which is extremely superficial, extremely unrealistic for most people, and not going to help them actually manifest more of what they want on a deep level, at least consistently. I mean, it might work for them once. They might get that, that new watch they wanted or whatever, but good luck, sustaining that.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because we were talking earlier about the difference between the practical
Mhm.
ways of applying law of attraction and the more magical, mystical approaches.
Yeah. Well, before we went on, I was telling you that in my opinion, there is no magical, mystical approach to the law of attraction, in the sense that um, the imagination in the human mind is an amazing thing. And I don't pretend to really understand it. And if you want to see it as godly in that way, as Neville often talked about, I get that. But a lot of the time, the law of attraction these days is connotated with this very vague, esoteric, spiritual mumbo jumbo, which, if you delve down and really try to practice it, makes no sense whatsoever. And it's okay, it doesn't make sense. But if it doesn't make sense, it's probably not going to help you that much, especially, I don't know, to manifest what you actually want, to improve your life on a practical, pragmatic level. I much prefer to hear law of attraction teachings that are based on just a sound practical approach to the mind body relationship, and that's some pretty far out stuff. But we go back to Quimby and Mary Baker Eddy, and then Emerson, and then people like Coué and other law of attraction teachers at the turn of the 20th century. They were talking about this mind body approach, which was very different than what became standard medicine, right? But it was there was this real practical edge to a lot of it. It was about improving your life and improving the life of others through kind of working on yourself. And I think that's been lost in the shuffle now, where it's all about people are talking about the flash and posting on Instagram what they manifested, and this is how I got this. It just is totally. It's almost like we're talking about something different, than what we're talking about, which is how can we practically improve ourselves, and in my opinion, if you practically improve yourself, you inherently are going to be practically improving the lives of others. So yeah, there's a big gap there. And there's also a lot of people who, for instance, with Neville's work, they like to take this very spiritual angle where like it's like you're elevating to a higher self with a capital S, and you're gradually evolving and all this. I don't know. I don't believe any of that stuff. And the reason I don't believe it is because of my own spiritual experiences. The spiritual experiences I have make it so that I feel like what they talk about in Zen and in non-duality and a lot of the old mystical writings makes a lot more sense to me than like this weird, like, oh, I'm evolving in a certain way. And why is everybody evolving spiritually in a certain way, but one teacher says it this way and another teacher says it another way? It doesn't make any practical sense to me. And I'm interested in practical when it comes to the law of attraction.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? I mean, that was kind of a long-winded talking about making sense. That was a long-winded answer I gave you, but
it 100% makes sense. You sound a lot like I am when it comes to this. You want to be able to, how can you apply something if you don't really know what it is? And and that to me, that was like the rule of thumb for me, was that I wanted to be able to explain in practical ways how a person could manifest success, and manifesting gets tied up with this mystical, magical experience, when it's really just we create our own reality, but there's more to it than um just thinking and
right, rational science. And I mean, the way that traditional self-improvement doesn't acknowledge what the law of attraction acknowledges and proves, in my opinion, in terms of like we're capable of so much more than what traditional, again, self-improvement would say we're capable of. I think that's kind of like the difference with a lot of law of attraction teachings, where visualization has been proven to do things, affirmations have been proven to do things in terms of healing, in terms of having you achieve a certain thing that, I mean, just most people are not comfortable with. And again, more people have become comfortable with it because of this watered down exposure they've gotten. Unfortunately, they need to hear or read some good stuff to really be able to get it to work for them, probably in a more effective way.
Yeah. Now, when you say the good stuff, what are some of your favorite law of attraction books that you've read?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'll say that there is plenty of good stuff today. Okay. It's not like it doesn't exist. As I mentioned, it's just a minority compared to the majority of, crap out there. But I always advocate, I mean, obviously Neville and Emile Coué are, I've edited works of theirs. I would the person that I think is the most underrated figure in this is Coué. And with your hypnotist background, I'm sure that you know something about him. Emile Coué was this French pharmacist who understood about the placebo effect, and then basically taught people how to heal themselves using autosuggestion, or basically, which is similar to affirmations. And he did this for a couple decades, and he helped heal tens of thousands of people. Now we hear stuff like that, and the problem is when we hear stuff like that, claims like that, a lot of times they're not true, or there's like a big gray area. This guy, he did it. And what's impressive is not only did he do it, but his philosophy was so straightforward that people just miss it. It's like the Silva method. Jose Silva, like, he talks about that. He goes, the reason that Coué isn't famous today is because his method seems too simple. Silva loved Coué. And Coué is the greatest, in my opinion, when it comes to understanding law of attraction principles in a practical way. And he does not use any religious language whatsoever. It's all psychological language to apply. And I don't love him because of his specific autosuggestion technique, even though it's a very good technique. I love his work because the underlying principles that he's discussing are so clear and straightforward. So Self-Mastery Through Conscious Autosuggestion is his most famous book. It's about 100 years old. It's a masterpiece. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. I edited some of his work, like I said, into a guide a couple of years ago called Simple Self-Healing. But yeah, Coué is really the person that I think probably a lot of folks who are listening to this they might have heard of him. People have heard of Coué, but they've never actually delved into him at all.
Yeah.
And he's as much as go ahead.
I fall into that class. For those who are not familiar with who Emile Coué is, he's the person who coined the every day in every way I'm getting better
and better.
Yeah. Very famous affirmation. Personally, I'm not a fan of that affirmation, but I am a fan of his work. I'm not a fan of that affirmation because, in my opinion, it's not specific enough. And, and so I feel like, the mind needs to grab onto some very specific information to make some life-altering change. But there's, I'm sure, more than one opinion on that in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's very, I think that this is what I was saying, where it's not the technique of Coué or his specific autosuggestions that's so impressive, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I actually am a huge proponent of general suggestions because I've found them very effective for myself and for people I've worked with. When I try to specifically implant an idea or an affirmation into my mind, I usually inadvertently end up stressing myself out too much. I talk about this in some of my Neville books. So I think that can be subjective. But again, it's exactly like you said, Victoria. It's more what he's saying, what he's getting at. And, he ran people through a series of like tests or experiments to kind of show them that it was their own thinking and their imagination that was running the show for them. And then he was basically showing them how they can make it so their imagination, which was working against them and making them feel sick, how that same imagination could be turned around to make them feel healthy. And again, he just explains it in such a straightforward way. Highly recommend checking out his stuff, not again for the technique itself, but for the underlying philosophy that he's explaining.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, and I'm sure that your book is going to rank up there with your favorite law of attraction books. So let's talk a little bit about that and where they can get it. Simplifying Law of Attraction Concepts.
Sure. Yeah. The book, it's just available on Amazon. It's new. I don't know when this will be released, but it's a new book. And the Law of Attraction Simplified is, delves into what we're talking about right now. Ways that we can feel good more often, how we can do it, and how we can apply the great teachers like Coué, what they're saying practically into our lives. So yeah, you can just, it's available on Kindle and paperback on Amazon, and eventually there will be an audiobook version as well.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to that coming out. And for more information, they can go over to your website, which is the radicalcounselor.com, not the, but radicalcounselor.com. And they can get that guide that's going to help them to relax and feel better.
Yeah. The relaxation manifesto's on there. Just a good overview of a lot of stuff I talk about. And again, this idea, which people miss a lot of the time, amidst all of the popular law of attraction stuff, this idea that if we can figure out how to relax more, we'll manifest more of what we want.
I agree with that. I definitely see where that is going to really help a lot of people relax more and stress less, and you will be on your way to manifesting more of what you want. We're always
Right.
manifesting more of the good things, the positive things, the things that you want. So, well, thank you so much for being a guest on Power of Your Mind podcast today. Really appreciate you coming here
Thank you
and
again for having me.
you're welcome. You're welcome.